Hello, this is Tisha McDonald, Alternative Beauty Studio. I see my brother has logged on, Alex Anderson. I am waiting for my sister Tanika to log on. She is, yeah, MIA somewhere. But I want to say thank you for watching the 10 minutes and welcome. You know how we get started. Alex, how was your day today?
They was cool. They was cool.
Cool. Let me turn you up on my end. I'm going to turn up my volume.
Okay.
Okay. Well, that was pretty cool. It was a day off for me. And we
Me
like to
too.
start
Me
off our
too.
day. I want to say thank you guys for watching our series last week. It got a lot of responses for all of us. We kept getting inboxes. Thank you for sharing your story. It sounds similar to what I went through. You're helping a lot of people. So we just got a lot of, yeah, my father was a sperm donor as well, this, that, and the other. So I want to just say thank you for listening to our story and sharing our story and viewing our story and taking interest in our story. Alex, was it the same for you?
Yeah, it was definitely the same for me. Just the openness of us sharing, even up to yesterday. Somebody from church actually, uh, who I would never thought was paying attention, was like, "Hey, I like what you and your sisters did, and I'm looking forward to seeing tuning into the next one." So, I mean, it's definitely getting a response that I guess it's something that needs to be talked about, needs to be discussed. So, yeah, great responses.
Okay. And so I see your sister's trying to tweak in here now. She's late.
Always, always late.
So we were just saying how we got so many responses last week with people thanking us for sharing our story. And I was saying that I got a lot of inboxes and, people that I wouldn't know or don't know me saying thank you for sharing our story, that it's going to help a lot of people. Was that
Yes,
the same for you?
it was the same for me. It was the same for me. So, how inspirational we all are. I think people really did appreciate this chat.
I must say, you're looking very nice.
Thank
Um,
you.
Congratulations on your letter.
Oh, thank you. My donation of the bows and everything. I don't know if
Okay.
Alex is frozen or what.
I think
Okay,
so. He's driving. He
okay.
needs to be still because he's going to keep freezing.
I'm driving too.
Well.
All right, well, with 3 minutes in, and we needed to do some clarification. I might have to boot Alex and let him come back in because he's
Okay.
totally frozen.
I will.
What'd you say? Alex, I'm about
Alex,
to
what
boot
did
you. You need to park. All right, so let's get into it. I wanted to
What?
clarify some things. What? Alex, you can't be emotion. All right, I'm gonna boot him.
you're gonna boot my brother off?
Yes, I have to do it. He's gonna have to come back in when he's stopped
When he's
driving.
stable. Okay. Well, he filled in the time while I was running late, so
All right, well, let's get into it. I wanted Alex actually to talk about his rejection, and because his father was married to someone famous, who had a famous son, famous rapper. We can't say the name. So I wanted him to talk about the rejection there. Um, but we can talk about our rejection from Thelma. I wanted to say that Thelma, that's my grandmother, my paternal grandmother. Um, she was married to a white man, and he was Irish, straight up. They married when shortly after interracial marriage was legal. They married, and she didn't take us in because she felt like, one, we were always too dark. My sister and I, we're too dark. You see our complexions, but we're too dark. She didn't want to have two little black girls with her and her husband. She didn't know how that was going to look. And then she didn't know how her husband was going to treat us because we were not his. And even though he had two daughters, he had to be supervised to watch them. So that says something about him, and then it shows some of my grandmother's character, because it says, well, you would prefer to stay married to maybe a pedophile than to take in your grandchildren. So that is rejection right there. It's like, oh, we're not worth. And my father was her only son. So I don't know. What do you have to say on that, Nikki?
There's Alex. With her, I understand, we were darker than a brown paper bag. That was the standard back then. I think that she's still just posting that we are live. I just posted that we are live. But anything darker than a brown paper bag was not acceptable to her. And she's still very light skinned, still has her prejudices against other nationalities. So sometimes it is kind of difficult to talk to her. But she is who she is at 80 plus years old. Yeah, it would have been nice for her to take us in, but she might have been doing us a blessing, doing us a favor by not taking us in, like we've said before. But that just broke the relationship between us, now that she is older and we don't have the relationship with her that she would like for us to have with her. We don't have that knit connection. We're speak and we're polite and respectful, but that relationship that she's wanting is just not there.
And I will get into that a little bit later. Let me just make a note of that. Alex, I was trying to say that your father denied you because, and I wanted you to get into it, but you cannot say the person's name.
Yeah, that's cool. Um, I don't even remember the person's name, so.
I know.
But I know for me, the aspect of the rejection aspect, just the aspect that, I'm his only son, I'm his only child, period. So, where the woman that he married, who was, married to the mother of a famous rapper, and so, oh, I remember the rapper, but the mother of the famous rapper, and she didn't like the fact that I was his only son. So, just that aspect of rejection, dealing with that. I mean, that was a lot because here we are, in this situation of foster care.
I don't know.
And I remember the aspect of just the rejection in the courtroom. So I remember the courtroom sessions, going to court and.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so we might not be able to.
No, because he's driving and he's in and out. So he's going to have to come back in. So that was his rejection. Another thing.
But I wonder where that rapper is now.
He's still doing stuff. He's still doing stuff. Yes,
okay,
he is.
okay.
He has a new single out.
Okay.
It came out just 4 months ago. Oh, Tanika, I was doing my research. So yeah.
Okay.
So, I also wanted to say another rejection we had is that Thelma, our paternal grandmother, she worked on 34th Street. Our foster agency was on 56th Street and Lexington Avenue.
Okay.
She never came to visit us. We had to go to the agency once a month for visitation, whether it be my mother, my grandma, my mother, my grandmother, father, whomever, whatever relative. And she never, not one time in the 10 years that we were in care, came to visit us. And she was only blocks away. She could have come on her lunch break. It was every month. So she has no reason, every month, year in, year out, she had no reason why she could not visit us, but she never did visit us. And it was, oh, well, because I was working. Okay, well, you work right in New York City. My grandmother, my foster mother, my mom, we lived in Long Island. My grandmother had to drive all the way from Long Island every month to New York City. And we would be there hours at a time, and no one there to come visit us. So can you imagine that feeling of rejection? You know, again, she wants to say she loves her son, her only son, her this or that, but she couldn't even come to, okay, it's bad enough you couldn't take us in. All right, that's fine. But you couldn't even visit us. And then later on, and this is what I had to take note of, later on, I asked her because very bitter in my 20s and my 30s, and always referred to my father as the sperm donor. Disrespectful to her, but I had to, So she said, she was trying to be a grandmother to us from a distance. Well, now that we're older and she's older, because she felt like with Rudine, she didn't want to be stepping on her toes. So she wanted to back up, you know. But you're being a grandmother from a distance, and now that you're older, we're being grandchildren from a distance. She just asked me last week, what's going to happen to her, as she gets older? She's already in her 80s. And I said, Grandma, I don't know. You need to have a place, nursing home that you would want us to put you in, because I don't know what you want us to do. What is your long-term care plan? Because we don't have a relationship where I would say, you could come live with me. That's just not the relationship, So there goes that. Alex, are you okay now?
Yeah, I'm good.
Okay, good. So what do you have to say about visits at foster care, at the agency?
It was draining, I mean, there's the part that I look forward to getting out of school that day, but outside of that, it was draining. You go up because, like we touched on last week, it's the same process. You go up there, you meet with the social worker, and in our case, there's been several social workers, and so it was draining. And then, sometimes my dad show up for the visit, sometimes he didn't show up, so it's just like a waste of time. Like, okay, we with grandma's, spinning wheels of having make sure you have a relationship with your father. And I'm like, all right, cool. Sounds good. I'm cool. I'm with it. But then I go to the agency and he don't show up for the visitation. So I mean, it's just like, after a while that get it, I mean, it affects you. It makes you question your worth. This is somebody that is supposed to, at least be caring for me and looking out for me. And here I come. We drove 2 hours, 2 hours, and
More, because it was a long day for Ma. She really,
yeah, it was a
that
long
was
trip.
very draining.
It was
So
a long trip.
it was a long trip. Nikki, you have anything to say before I move on to the next?
No.
Let's go on to, I see my J is on here. I love you, girl. I love you, love you, love you. You are my sister for real, for true. Let's talk about rejection. Let's talk about church. Tanika, you said you wanted to touch on the molestation within the church.
Yes. We were young and we would go to church. Ma was faithful and everything to the church, but you have to be careful with who you leave your kids around, even in the church, because I want to say one of my first sexual encounters was with a girl, the pastor's granddaughter, in the church. And it was her coming on to me. I think we was probably 9, and she was probably 14 or something like that. And so she was probably at the age where she was already experiencing, that, how that age is. And we were still young. And so, that was a struggle for me, just with that, so you already had the men, now you having other people that you wouldn't expect or wouldn't think. And you wouldn't think would come from the pastor's family, maybe.
To me, that would only mean it was happening to her.
Yes, and that's possible too. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I wanted to get into church a little bit, a different side of that. Alex, do you have anything to say on that?
I mean, it happens, a great deal,
It does happen a great deal. And I think that today, I'm happy that people are saying, come forward, say, don't let, you're listening to the young people. Like I will always tell my kids, tell me, I want to know, don't keep it hidden. It doesn't matter who the kid is. It don't have to be, yes, It doesn't, I don't care who it is. Let me know, let somebody know. And sometimes teaching them, and I'm gonna tell this story real quick. A client was saying that she's a teacher, the teacher. So a student came to the teacher and said her uncle was touching her cookies or took her cookies. The teacher didn't know the term cookie. And so years later, the teacher found out that cookies meant her vagina. And she felt so bad that she couldn't help that kid because she didn't know, the kid didn't know the proper term and the teacher didn't know the slang. And so it's
And that's the
important
problem.
to,
You can't teach your children slang terms. You got to tell them the real deal from baby. You can't tell them these little terms that nobody's gonna know what you're talking about. I understand your treasure chest,
yeah.
I understand that, but you gotta tell these kids the real words, because she didn't know cookie. Like one of my clients, she referred to her cycle as the red pen. Let me know about the red pen. So I didn't know about the red pen, but I knew later. I was like, oh, red pen. So I got it. So
sorry, Alex, that was just a little bit much. But anyway, what were you saying from the outreach point of view? Sorry.
I mean, I deal with a lot of people that have shared in this experience, and so, I get, I have to deal with it all the time. You know what I mean? And more than I would like, of course. Just in adults, who now sharing their story, or still being afraid to share their story until they're able to be able to find someone that they can build trust with, and so, and that's the challenge, where you just don't know. But even for even like we said, it happens to men too, and even in grandma letting us stay at somebody's house that, though nothing happened to us, but it was just like what I found out, almost 30 years later, like, oh, that didn't know. Thankfully, nothing happened to us, but it's just like, just those things, just those heads up, those red flags. Like I teach Lex now. You know what I mean? Hey, because again, it happens to boys and men too, and I teach him now, like, hey, keep me informed. And every once in a while, I don't put it on him. I check in on him and we'll sit down. All right, anybody did this, anybody did that. I don't wait. If I feel like, okay, it's time for me to check in, then I check in. So.
all right. So let's continue with the rejection part. We're going to be on live for quite some time tonight. And we're already prepared to be on for some time because we know that we're going to be getting comments and questions even throughout. And please share if you don't mind. And Val, I see your text, but I can't tell you that right now. I'll tell you after. Okay, so church, like when we were placed with Ma, I loved going to, and I'm gonna say the name of the church. I loved going to Epiphany because I felt part of Epiphany. I felt that we were part of a family. It was a smaller setting. I felt a part of that. When we went, and now I'm getting into the rejection part. When she took us out from there, and we went to the next church. I don't know if I should say the name.
Okay.
I didn't feel comfortable there. I felt like we were out of place. I felt like at Epiphany, it was just chill, you know what I mean? But at the other church, people were so stuck up. It was all about the fur coats. It was all about what you had. And then Rudine, my foster mom, she would introduce us as her foster children there. We were not her children there. We were not her grandchildren there. When we went there, we were her foster children. And so that is where I felt the rejection, because now these people are looking at us like charity cases, like pity on us, like, oh, woe are they, or like we were less than. And so I never felt comfortable there. And Nika, like I'll digress from that. But I never felt a part of there. I felt rejection there. And to this day, our sister would say, don't you want to get on to that church? And I'm like, yeah, nope, don't feel nothing there for me. You know, I just felt more at home at Epiphany.
Tanika, go ahead.
I don't have that same. I understand what you're saying, T. Epiphany was okay. I think I'm more like I could fit in anywhere, you know. So it really didn't bother me. And today I still prefer a bigger church. I don't really want to deal with nobody. So let me go in, get my sermon, and I'm out. Like, you know, I don't have to deal with nobody. At the same time, opposite at the same time. The bigger churches, even with my daughter, you know, there's no support there from the bigger churches, whereas you would have more support from the smaller churches. So I'm just going to leave that there. For me, y'all know my history. I'm not super religious at all. Yes, I know the Bible. I probably could quote a lot of scriptures, you know, but I'm not religious at all, you know, because I've been able to learn other religions and their beliefs and cultures and backgrounds, as well as the Christian aspect of it. And then at the same time, I'm not going to say about hypocrites in the church. Everybody knows that there's people in the church that do whatever they do, but I'm just not super religious. I do believe in God, and I just leave it right there. You know, I don't need some, because people like to use the Bible against you, you know, and use it to their benefit, you know, and that's why you have to know for yourself, you know, the word of God. So, yeah.
You finished preaching.